right, welcome back to Happy Hour with Heather and Guest. This is episode number 98, only two away from three digits. I'm that other dude, Andrew, and as always, I'm joined by Heather. And on episode 100, I'll have to go into why I'm known, excuse me, as that other dude. That'll be more of the lore.
Yeah.
But today, the pendulum swung back to me, so it was my choice, and I picked a band called King Bastard from Stony Brook, New York. Specifically because of the name. I don't think I'd actually heard any of the music, but when I heard the name King Bastard, I was like, oh, well, they clearly have to be discussed. So they released a single album so far, which I think came out in 2022.
Yeah.
And this was on Bandcamp. I thought it's called It Came from the Void. I thought this would be my only introduction, and then I'd give the mic to you. But this is what the band wrote. Following nearly 3 years of anticipation, we present our debut album, It Came from the Void, a mixture of infectious jams and gratuitous effects to craft soundscapes reminiscent of a 70s horror film. So that's what they're going for. And with that, I give you the floor, Heather.
Okay. Well, the first two songs on the album are really pleasant, psychedelic, spacey jams. And then something happens. I actually wondered if I was listening to the same album. Like I actually physically checked to make sure that I was listening, because I'm like, did something happen? Am I listening to a different band now? Because the third song, it gets really heavy, and then it has harsh vocals. And the song is called Psychosis. In a vacuum is in parentheses. It's chaotic, and maybe it's representative of kind of what happens when you lose your mind. After the next song feels like it's pulling you back into the abyss. And the samples from the movie Aliens I thought was really cool. This album was well thought out. The names match the tone. The names of the songs, they match the tone of the music. And the way the whole thing is laid out, I think is just brilliant. And listening to it was like being taken on a space odyssey. And I thought, what an incredible ride. I absolutely loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, it was interesting. Again, going into this, I had no idea what I was looking. I think it makes sense now that they'd worked on this album for a long time, and a lot of the choices were very deliberate. It's interesting because on Bandcamp, usually there are like 4 or 5 tags at the bottom, which suggest what genre it falls into. This one had like 12, because I think there's a framework of psychedelic space rock that's sort of at the core of this. And the first 2 songs are very sort of, it's almost like you're floating through space, gentle. And at first I thought, okay, this is an instrumental album, because the first 2 tracks, there are no vocals. And then I was reading the liner notes and it says lyrics by, and I was like, oh, there are lyrics. Okay. And then you're right, that third track, and there are elements in the first 2 tracks of like stoner riffs and stuff like that. So it's not simply just like progressive space rock. But then, yeah, that third track kind of hits you like a left hook. It's like, whoa, there's death metal vocals, and it's really sludgy. And yeah, it's sort of like the first 2 tracks, you're floating through space, and on the third one, you land on the hostile enemy planet, and you're sort of overrun, like in Aliens or Starship Troopers or anything where it's just like, whoa, this is So it was really interesting how they were able to blend stoner, doom, sludge, death metal, like all of these different types of music combined with this really ethereal, gentle space rock. Um, so yeah, it was unique. I when you we spoke briefly yesterday, and you had already listened to the music. I hadn't yet, and you said, this caught me really off guard. I wasn't expecting this, and I was like, okay, I'm curious to know. And then when that third track hit, I was like, oh, this is what Heather meant.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's really, they do say that each track is sort of like a short film, um, in that sort of 70s horror, space odyssey type thing. And I understand now what they meant. It was really cool to kind of see them construct this really complex storyline, that's partially instrumental, partially has lyrics, partially has samples, but it really does take a unique approach. I don't think there are very many albums out there like this one that sort of have crafted like a singular experience.
Yeah. I I I can tell that it was really well thought out how the album is presented and how the songs are presented and how um the one song goes to the next, and it does kind of tell a story. And um it just I found it to be incredibly unique. Like I don't think that I can recall. I don't think I've ever experienced an album like this before. So I just think just the way that they did it, I'm just so impressed with it.
I would agree. I mean, I think often you hear musicians say our album is meant to be listened to from start to finish, not individual tracks. But that really shines through here. This they're you can listen to them individually, and they do act independently from each other. Um, but to really get a sense of the scope of the album, you sort of do need to listen to it from start to finish, because it is telling the story. Um, and yeah, I really enjoyed how they sort of pushed the envelope a little bit, by combining all of these different elements and making it work in the way that they do. I'm sort of curious. I guess this is their debut album, so I'm sort of curious to see where they go from here. Um, and yeah, like whether or not, see, I'm also, because it seems like it's such a labor of love, and they spent a lot of time really crafting this whole album, whether or not they're going to be more of a studio band or whether or not they're going to tour, um, and be more of a live band. That would be interesting to find out.
Yeah. That'd be really quite an experience
Sure.
to see these songs played live. Would
I,
be
I
really, really incredible.
When I was growing up in New York City, at the planetarium, sometimes, where you could go and they would project, various space things, on the seal. You'd be sitting back looking up at the dome, and seeing space. And I think they would play Pink Floyd. Like there was an experience where you could go and listen to Dark Side of the Moon while you were. That would be cool if they incorporated that into this. You rented at a planetarium and you heard King Bastard while, navigating through the Milky Way.
Yeah, that would be really cool. That's
Yeah.
a great idea. That's
I
a great
mean,
idea.
yeah, I feel like it would be, we did this once when I was in college. You have that friend who tells you that if you can sync up the Wizard of Oz with Dark Side of the Moon, and there seem to be coincidences. Are you familiar with this at all?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I think if you start playing the album by the third Lion's Roar in the MGM, whatever presentation, that it syncs up with the movie. So like in there's a part in one of the songs where Roger Waters sings like "Look Up," and Dorothy looks up at the exact moment he says that. And there are just a lot of coincidences that sync up to the song. So that's I forgot what it's called, like the Dark Side of Oz, or somewhere over the I forgot, but it's this is like a an urban myth that like I think every so often uh, drunk or stoned kids hear about this and then find the music and the movie and sync them up together. So I wonder if we synced up King Bastard to like Aliens or something, whether or not it would. I'm sure we could find connections. Like, ooh, did you hear when he says "game over"? That syncs up to the bass beat or whatever. I don't know, but
Yeah, yeah. That Yeah, that's very interesting. That would be an interesting experiment. I think
well,
that's a yeah.
I think also like you could. So I have an essential oil diffuser um, that also lights up and changes color. So tonight I might put that on and listen to this album, and just blast off as I smell lavender and lemongrass. So I think, yeah, I think this is what's interesting is like there are elements of this album that are really relaxing, but there are also elements that will jar you out of that relaxation. So just be aware if you're going to try to do something like that. Like, don't take a bubble bath tonight and put this album on and think I'm just going to float in the abyss for a while, because you may be lurched out of it pleasantly. I must say, it's all none of it is like abrasive or anything like that. The
Yeah.
other thing that I was struck by, the name King Bastard obviously is what hooked me. And I was trying to think if that meant anything other than just a cool sounding name. So I think William the Conqueror was sometimes referred to as William the Bastard. So, but I'm clutching at straws here. So
Yeah.
I'm just really glad you liked. This was really a shot in the dark for me, because most of the time I've heard the music before when I suggest we listen to it. And this time I just threw the dart blindly and was like, oh, that's too good of a name for us not to listen to the music. And
Yeah.
fortunately, it turned out
Yeah.
to be really good.
Yeah. Yeah. That was very pleasant.
Yeah, it was. It was. I mean, it was worth it for me just to listen to a band named King Bastard.
Yeah.
But the fact that the music was also unique and really awesome was just gravy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
and we dabbled back into space metal, or space rock, which
Yeah.
was in your wheelhouse.
Which I'm a huge fan of. I love space rock. Yes.
So this all worked out really well.
It did. It did. It
Um,
really did.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad the members of King Bastard are making music, and I hope their sophomore album is in the pike,
I hope so too.
or the pipeline, or whatever coming down the pike. Um,
Yeah. I
but
followed him. I followed him on Bandcamp. I followed him on Instagram.
yeah,
So yeah, if they come out with anything new, hopefully I'll find out about it.
sure. Well, I think if you're looking for a unique album with a great, I mean, every track is great, and they do all lead into the next one. And they have elements of like every genre out there in the music.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean,
definitely worth it.
yeah, the tone, like, well, on, I can't remember which song it was. But the tone of the song, at the beginning, the tone, they got so low. It was so low. I was like, wow, wow, yeah,
Well, I think we have two enthusiastic thumbs up for you to go out and get this album. And yeah, and definitely King Bastard is worth. I'm excited to see what they do next. That's my official position.
yeah.
Um, all right, cool. Well, we got next week's episode is 99, and then we're celebrating the triple digits.
I know it.
It's just
That's
before the end of the year.
pretty amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for me, unless you have anything else on the agenda.
I just want to say that I have HHHG stickers.
Oh,
I
nice.
still have some. So if anyone wants any stickers, I would happily put them in the mail to you. Just send me a message.
Yeah, DM Heather or me if you're interested in stickers. Also, and I'm not sure if you have any calendars left. Um,
I
yeah,
do. Yeah.
Heather takes phenomenal landscape photography, and she put together some calendars of her work, which she still has available. Um, they're really wonderful. Check them out if you're interested in any photography, specifically landscapes. But don't sleep on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, cool. Well, I look forward to episode 99, and then we're on 100.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Well, have a
Thank you.
good rest of your weekend, everyone out there in the internet.
Yes.